This week, Matt Farah drives a Swedish Frankenstein, Mike Musto confronts a Camaro that never goes out of style, and it's the confessions of a legendary hot rodder with a one-track mind. That's all coming up on Drive. Whether you're into new cars or old cars, you can't help but love an old Chevy Camaro. Even Formula One legend James Hunt raced one of these. He didn't win, but that's beside the point.
Pro Daily. That's the term we came up with here on Big Muscle to describe the majority of today's modern builds. What that means is it's not a full-on pro touring car or a pro street car, but instead, it finds itself somewhere in the middle by combining the best attributes of a daily driver with the best attributes of today's modern sports cars. This 69 Camaro was built around that philosophy, and although it's not the best in any one discipline, you can rest assured that it's comfortable in any arena you throw it into.
Times on this show I've said everybody builds first-gen Camaros and they're all exactly the same and they follow the same exact formula and they do the same exact things and blah 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 blah. I'm saying that about myself, of course. This first-gen Camaro is something that I felt that we needed to film because it's a little bit different than every other first-gen Camaro out there. First and foremost, it has a carburetor on top of the motor. Everybody else is doing the LS motors, which is great, but not that traditional. I wanted to stay traditional. I wanted to stay naturally aspirated. So we've got a 383 stroker. It's about 500 horsepower, about 515 foot-pounds of torque. You know, everybody's questioning, why aren't you going LS? You know, everybody's got a Camaro with an LS swap. For certain cars, absolutely. They make all the sense in the world. Fuel injected, better mileage. But again, I just wanted to stay old school. I love the look. I love the sound of a naturally aspirated car. And, you know, for me, that was the best fit. It is not so much a pro touring car, but a pro daily car. Now let's talk about aspects of a pro daily. Decent suspension, decent brakes, nice steering, comfort, a couple of amenities, and things that just make you go, this is an enjoyable automobile to drive. For suspension, you know, to go with that pro touring theme, decided to go with the full Ride Tech setup front and rear. We're running shock waves. I love the adjustability of the air ride aspect. As you can see, we've got it dumped. To me, nothing looks better than, you know, a dumped first gen. But then when I throw a couple guys in the car, or I'm going in a steep driveway over speed bumps, you know, I don't have to worry about it scraping. I can air it up a little bit more, get all the clearance that I want, but it still gives me the performance when we're out driving and ripping around. Every car that I've ever driven with airbags always has a problem. They never ride properly. They always seem like more of a hassle than anything else. When you go around a corner, it's kind of interesting. Like, you have that flex in the bags, but then once they set, it's fine and you can power into and out of any corner you want. It works great. I dare to say this might be the best airbag-equipped car I've ever driven. The end result of every build should be a focused piece, something that you look at and you're proud of. You never want to look at what you build and go, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that. In Jeff's case, he hit his goal. And here's why. Jeff planned out his build. He's like, I wanted my car to do everything. I will go to the track and I will go to the autocross, but that's not my primary thing. My primary thing is to enjoy it. When
we started talking, we wanted something that had the Pro Touring theme. I want to go to the autocross, I want to get it out to the road track, I'd love to run Optima someday. I wanted the best of everything, right? I wanted the classic look, I wanted the styling of a first-gen Camaro, specifically a 69, but I wanted the reliability, I wanted the durability, I wanted the improved handling, I wanted the improved performance, so that's why we went the route that we did.
So one of the best things that Jeff did was hook up with Chris at West Coast Autocraft. And by doing that, what did he get? Well, he got a guy that knows how to sync up 6 Weber carburetors on a Ferrari to tune the one Holly that sits on top of this thing. You know what that means? It means somebody with skill and expertise took the time to sort this car out so it runs perfectly. Expertise like that is tough to find, and you have to do your research and take your time to actually locate that person and to quantify their talents. Now let's talk about styling. Subtle cues that in 10 years or 15 years, people will still look at and go, somebody took the time to actually design a car correctly.
Chris had started talking about some of the custom things he'd wanted to do to a first-gen Camaro. We decided to get a rendering. He showed me what he wanted to do to the front end. We have an RS grille, as you can see up in front. Obviously, it's not stock. But what we did is we recessed it 2 inches back. We added a 3/8 inch of stock all the way around the front of the nose to hide the outside of the grille.
The fenders, subtle flares, but it gives the car a Trans Am style look and feel.
We stretched the front fenders, expanded them out about 2 inches. On the rear quarters, we expanded them out about 3 inches. We had to bring the doors out to fit the fender as well as the quarters. All the lines are extremely sharp with the rockers, shaved the windshield wipers, shaved all the door locks and the trunk lock off. We went with the second-gen mirrors.
The spoiler in the rear, that's a normal Camaro spoiler. However, it's been cut in half and shaved and put back on the deck lid. It looks great. Love the interior, one of my favorite parts about this car. Houndstooth interior on basically stock seats with just a couple of extra inches added to the bolsters so they're more comfortable and give you a little more lateral support.
The main theme that we had going through the whole build was less is more. You see a lot of beautiful, fantastic interiors, custom, high-end, over the top, but to me, they become dated. So for the interior, we wanted to stay with the same theme. We wanted to go with the minimalist approach, didn't want to get gaudy. It's very stock looking. We upgraded the seats, they're bolstered, so it gives you more of that modern comfort. We upgraded the dash. We have a DSC dash carrier in here with the autometer gauges to go with kind of that road race theme. We deleted the stereo, it's in the trunk, everything's hidden, but it's very comfortable, it's great for long drives, and it'll stand the test of time.
Don't stray from your vision. Do not look at the internet and just because some jackass says you need to put an LS motor in a Camaro, don't do it. If you want a naturally aspirated engine in here, man, go that route. Go with a freaking carb on top. That's okay, because I got news. Everybody with an LS1 or 2 in 15 years, oh, you just got an LS1 in that thing. God, he built that 15 years ago. It's gonna be dated. But you know what? A 383 with a carb will always, always look right.
It's really easy to be swayed and enticed by seeing, these crazy high-dollar builds that are out there. For me, a lot was budget, but a lot of it was staying true to what I was looking for and not going overkill and building something that I'd never fully utilize the capabilities of the car that I was going to build. A lot of it had to do with Chris. He's got a lot of experience with cars like this. And so when we started talking about, well, let's do this with the suspension, or let's do that with the motor, or let's do, something else, he's like, no, you're getting away from the original goal and objective, plus it's gonna cost a lot more money, so let's just stay with the course. We can always make the change later, and let's see how things turn out. And to me, it's perfect.
He contacted a great builder, they came up with a plan, they executed that plan, and what's the result? A great car. Sounds good, runs good, makes you giggle. This is fun, man. I mean, you don't need 1,000,000 horsepower. I mean, listen to that sound. Listen to what that does. It makes you crack up and it turns you into a little kid. You know, we weren't going that fast, but I felt like friggin' Penske behind the wheel of this thing. This thing is bitching.
Losing your way during the build process is not an uncommon thing. We're influenced by friends and family and the internet, and in the end, sometimes we wind up with a car that wasn't really what we envisioned. Using your gut, regardless of its size, is what you as enthusiasts need to do. Dig deep and find your passion, and then put that passion into your car, and I promise you, you'll wind up with something that you'll enjoy for years to come.
Have you already forgotten Saab, that Swedish car company that, among other strange achievements, helped bring turbocharging to the masses? You know, Viggen, born from jets. Doesn't ring a bell? Well, Saab guys never forget anything, especially their car keys.
When I was 8 years old, I drove a car for the first time while sitting on my father's lap. The car was a Saab 900 Turbo. As a high schooler learning to drive stick, I spent many hours behind the wheel of my neighbor's various Saab Turbo coupes and convertibles. And at the time, I recall them being fast, involving, and unlike any other car on the road. Even as a child, I knew the reverse clamshell hood, curved windshield, center ignition, driver-focused interior, and sloped winged hatch was just different. Now, as an adult with experience, we thought we should revisit two of Saab's most iconic models, both owned by one enthusiastic collector.
I always looked at the car and I thought that I need to lower the car a little bit, and that's where it started. My first upgrade was just like lowering springs. The car was fast as is at the time. Modifications, you know, the computer chip. A friend of mine stopped by my house, he's like, hey, try that. I tried it, I was like, whoa. It's like the car like just woke up, you know, big time. And from there, it just kept going.
If you grew up in the northeast of the U.S. like me, the Saab Turbo was a regular sight, driven by English teachers, history teachers, really any teacher, and Jerry Seinfeld. Was it a performance car? Well, sort of. Pioneered a lot of early technologies, turbocharging, front-wheel drive, really good ergonomics, bad weather capability. This one's been modified quite a bit, and what's interesting about how it's been modified is, at least in terms of the engine, is it uses mostly parts from other Saabs.
Most of the work on the car I have done myself. It has about maybe 200,000 miles on it, and I'm proud of that. The first thing I started with was the automatic control box, the APC. From that, you had to put bigger injectors, the fuel pressure regulator. You went into exhaust, intercooler, headers, and then suspension, of course, you know, always evolved. I've changed the suspension of this car probably about like 20 times.
You know, this is old school turbo. New school turbo is torque, mid-range, die at the top, right? Fiesta ST, WRX, they're all like that. This is old school, bigger turbo, top-end power. Unless you're shifting at redline, it'll drop out a boost every single time you shift. So you get that boost lag if you're driving at anything less than a full clip. Just the layout of this whole car is strange. Front wheel drive, longitudinal slant mounted engine, sitting on top of the gearbox with an output shaft that goes forward and then a drive shaft that goes backwards into a transaxle. It's so bizarre. Khaled says this car is geared for 165 miles an hour. There is nothing I would rather do less than go 165 miles an hour in this car. Now, credit where it is due. This car is probably about as dialed in as you can get a Saab 900. It's reasonably fast. It makes cool sounds. The ride quality is excellent, actually. It rides really nice. It has good grip. It's composed except under very hard braking when it likes to understeer and scare you. The thing about this Saab is it's sort of representative of all of Saab in that I posted a picture of this car on Instagram this morning and it got 1,000 likes and 80 comments in about an hour of everyone saying how awesome it was. Meanwhile, if you ask people if this is what they actually wanted to drive, I bet very few of them would say yes. That is Saab. Saab was the company that made people go, ooh, look at that, that's cool. Oh, do you want to buy one? Well, not really. Now we're out of business. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wish Saab was still around. I do. I do wish they were still around. They made weird stuff I found interesting. But what you do take away from this car is the ergonomics are amazing. The dash layout is like perfect. It's comfortable and spacious. To the die-hard enthusiasts, Saab probably could have died after this car and it would have been the same as it is now. But when I was growing up, they came out with one other model that was faster than this one. Fortunately, Khaled owns both. So let's see if it's any good.
Pretty much I always wanted to buy a Vigan. You know, I always look at them, I like them, read the reviews or whatnot. And in 2007, we were having a baby and I was like, a 2-door is not gonna work. Honey, we need to buy a 4-door. And right away, of course, I started looking for Vigans.
Meeting your heroes can be a really good thing. But this is meeting a car that I was mildly interested in high school. This is a 2002 Saab 93 Vigan. This one's the 5-door. And at the time, this was sort of the pinnacle of the born from jets thing, right? The Saab born from jets, because Saab Scania was a jet manufacturer and did build jets, one of which was called the Vigan. Do those jets have anything to do with the car? Absolutely not. It was a branding exercise, but it was a very successful branding exercise, at least in terms of creating an impression on an 18-year-old me.
The best thing about a Vigan is that it's a great daily driver. If you want a fun daily driver that like you can do anything with, I think this is it. You have so much room. The car is really comfortable. It is a Saab. It feels like a Saab in every way. The engine and the tuning of this car for its time, it's really good.
My friend's little brother had one of these in high school, and at the time, it was exceptionally cool. It made as much power from its 4-cylinder as an Audi S4 made from a twin-turbo 6. It's a 3,200-pound car with a 230 horsepower, very laggy, turbo 2.3, front-wheel drive 5-speed.
Koni shocks and springs, Vigan rescue kit, 6-point subframe support, strut mount support, 1-inch rear sway bar, rear diesel mount. That's it.
You can pick up a really clean Vigan for like 10,000 bucks. So if you think about it compared to what else you're gonna get for 10,000 bucks, you can get a lot of car. It's just not that fast. In my memory from high school, Nick Shalik had a fast car. Nick Shalik did not have a fast car. Credit where it's due though. The car's solid, there's not a lot of squeaks and rattles. It's got 125,000 miles on it. It runs good, the air conditioning cranks cold. It actually rides well. It has really nice ride quality. Piece of advice, kids. Your heroes will probably be as cool as you imagine them to be, but cars you find mildly interesting could still let you down.
Well, let me just say that I would never want to sell my Saabs. Just say that straight. But sometimes, if you want to drive another car, you're going to have to let another car go. You know, somebody once said, a Saab is a Saab is a Saab. So there it is. You can't compare, in my opinion, you can't compare it to anything else.
After spending a day with these two fine examples of Swedish engineering, we come away with mixed feelings. On the one hand, the SPG is surprisingly fun and capable as a weekend tuner car, and we wish we saw them more often. On the other, we've learned why Saab just didn't really last. Different is only good when the market says it's better. Sadly, being different just to be different isn't enough in today's mass market economy. So while we remain optimistic for the return of Saab and nostalgic for what it once stood for, if they were selling cars today, we'd probably look elsewhere.
They called him Mr. Corvette. That's because in the 1960s, in the face of competition from places like Great Britain and Italy, places where people knew a little bit about sports cars, he turned a Chevrolet into a Daytona hero. And he wasn't done. This is a story about finding that one thing and doing the hell out of it.
My name is Dick Gullstrand, and the name of this shop is Corvettes and Muscle Cars. It was developed after I sold the business of Gullstrand Engineering in 2012. Well, originally I got into cars in high school because either you were a candy ass or a hot rodder. You had the hottest 27T at LA High School, or you were a jock or you're a football player, and I wasn't heavy enough, so my real suit was hot rods. I built my first hot rod and got my driver's license and it licensed in 1946. I was 17 in 1946. If you're a California hot rodder, you race. You race on the streets, you get yourself in trouble at the dry lakes, you go to sprint car races and so on, and I was always in the pits waiting to get a ride, and somebody didn't show up or didn't drive, I'd drive. My favorite car by far was the Corvette. Well, I could build it and race it, and I could show off in it. And it wasn't just somebody else's car, it was my creation. And I think that excited me a lot. If you have some aptitude, especially in automobile racing and engineering, you like to kind of show that off. So in those days, everybody that wanted to race usually built their own car. And it was easier to build a Corvette than anything. So. Well, the GF90 got started because we decided there was something had to be done for the car to keep the Corvette going. We'd heard all these rumors about the Corvette being canceled, and it was not an exciting car. So we took it on ourselves to develop a whole body based on the LT5 engine. Well, at that time, over 400 horsepower in a production car was pretty amazing. Plus, that engine would run over 7,000 RPM. So it was a tremendously exciting engine to put in the chassis of a Corvette. And the LT5 engine, which was the 4-cam designed by Lotus, built by Mercury Cruiser, was the key to this car. But we felt it was lackluster because it looked like all other Corvettes. So we agreed to do this body change. So we kept the modifications to a minimum so that it would be a base Corvette. We learned very quickly how to make a small fortune building special cars. You start with a very large fortune and build a few special cars, and you end up with a very small fortune. The only changes that we made on the interior of the car was the top. We just made the top a little bit different. We actually used the windshield, the doors, the interior, everything was the same. We put a dash plaque on it that said GS90. But other than that, we tried to stay as much with standard equipment as possible. The GS90, because of the wheels and tires that we've included on it, put on it, is a much better handling car. It's very stable at high speed. I've had it up to 190 miles an hour. And it's really a pleasure to drive. To be sure, you know, when we built the car, we wanted to make a statement. And I think it was really worth it with the camaraderie that we developed, the excitement we built, the acceptance of Chevrolet's design group and all. Really stepped a lot of us one step further down the road. Yes, in that respect, I really feel it was worth it. Yeah. I am so very, very proud of it. It's lasted the test of time. It's still great. People still love it. It stops traffic. I think that it made a statement, and I'm in the line of Corvettes. I'm really proud to be, I think, quite close to the top.